Hi 10th standard students, good morning and welcome to this second session on pronouns. We're going to discuss the third, fourth and fifth types of pronouns which you have for your board exam. Okay, these are the indirect objects. Then we have pronoun E, that is the letter Y, and pronoun O, that is EN. Okay, so let's begin with the third category of pronouns, that is the indirect object pronouns. C'est oui, complément d'objet indirect. Okay, so when do you use the indirect object pronoun? So the clue for you is when the underlined part begins with any of the A words. Okay, these are called A and the variants of A. Okay, so any of the small A words is at the start of the underlined portion. Okay, plus after any of these words you have the person. Okay, a person could be a name of a person, could be the relation, pair, mayor, sir, whatever. Okay, it could be a profession, anything which denotes a person. Okay, which is preceded by an a and a variant of a, you would substitute it with an indirect object. Okay, we'll see how you do this in the examples. Now, which are the two indirect object pronouns? This is fairly simple because there are only two indirect object pronouns. Okay, when you're substituting something that is masculine or feminine singular, so either of the genders. If it's singular, you are substituting it with lui. If it's plural, you are substituting it with ler. It's as simple as that. Now, the placement rules are the same as the direct objects which we saw last time. So let's just revise those with the indirect objects. So look at the first sentence here. When you have a single verb, you know that the pronoun is placed immediately before that single verb. Okay, so look at this sentence. A ton père is underlined. So this is a plus person. Ton père is your father, which is a person, right? So a plus person will give you, you have to substitute with an indirect object pronoun. Now, which indirect object pronoun? Look at the sentence. Ton père is what? Singular or plural? Singular, right? So you know that the singular indirect object is Louis. Now, where do you place this Louis? Single verb, so immediately before the verb. Okay. Look at the next example. Again, single verb. Okay. Aux enfants. It's an A variant. Okay. It's a variant of A. O is A plus les, so that is okay. Plus a person. Enfant is children, which is a person. Okay. So now you are using COI. That's understood. Now, which COI will you use? Louis or leur? Enfant is plural, right? So you'll have to use leur here. Where do you place it? Single verb, so it will come before the verb. Okay. Now, for the other two categories, I've kept the same sentences. I've only changed the verbs a little bit. Okay, so we don't have to discuss why we're using indirect and all that because the objects are the same. Okay, à ton père, aux enfants, à ton père, aux enfants. So we have established that we're using the indirect objects here. Now, just to revise how you place it, when you have one conjugate, one full. For example, here, va parler is the future proche where aller is conjugated here and parler is full, right? So how do you place the pronoun when you have one conjugate and one full? You place it in between the two, right? Before the full verb. So this is Louis. So Louis is placed before the full verb, which I marked for you in orange. Okay. Second one we know is leur. Now, devons donner. Devons is the verb which has been conjugated in the present. Donner is the full verb. Now, same way, you have one conjugated, one full. You have to place it before the full verb. Okay, this is the same placement rule as the direct object. The last one here, tu as parlé à ton père. Now, both conjugated is passé composé so. You will have to place the indirect object before both. Okay, before the first verb, that is the auxiliary. So a is the auxiliary for the passé composé here. You will have to place your indirect object before that. Okay. Now, remember in the direct object, when we were placing the direct object pronoun for passé composé, we were doing an agreement with the participle, right? If it was feminine, we were putting E, if it was plural, S, and so on. Now that rule is applicable only to the direct object pronoun, okay? When you're doing indirect objects and the rest, you do not follow that agreement of the participle rule. That is only for the direct object, okay? Now same way here, this is aux enfants, okay? So it will be leur, right? Now where do you place it? Passé composé, it is placed before the auxiliary. Okay, there is no agreement happening, okay, because it is the indirect object pronoun that we are using. Agreement happens only when we are dealing with the direct object. So let's solve these examples together. Karen écrit une lettre à ses grands-parents. So a plus person. Ses grands-parents are her grandparents, so this will be a person. Therefore, a plus person gives us indirect object pronoun. Okay. So now, which is the verb here? Écrit. Grands-parents are plural, so you'll have to put leur, and where will you place it? Here. Okay. Immediately before the verb, since it's just one verb. Let's look at the next one. O is a variant of A, so this is A plus a person. Paysan is a peasant or a farmer. Okay, so it's A plus person. Therefore, we have to use COI. Now, which COI? Paysan is singular, so we'll have to use Louis. Where do you place it? D is again just a single verb here, so it is placed before the single verb. Okay, next one. Je vais donner du jus à Francis. Now, A plus a person. Francis is the name of a person, so it's COI. Which COI? Louis, because Francis is singular. Now, where will you place it here? Aller is conjugated and a full verb. Conjugated plus full, you have to place it in between the two. Okay, so it is placed here. It will be je vais lui donner du jus. And the last one, vous avez montré votre devoir à votre maître. So a plus a person will give you COI. Okay, where do you place it now? Okay, this is a passé composé. So remember, passé composé, you are placing it before the auxiliary, so it will come here. Now, which one is it? Louis or leur? Votre mère is just one person, so it is singular. It will be Louis. Okay, there's a mistake here. I'm so sorry. There's a mistake here. Okay, votre mère is singular, so it is not leur. It is Louis. Okay. Now, this is an exercise for you to complete. Pause the video here. The answers are waiting for you on the next slide. Okay, now coming to the fourth pronoun that we have to do is on. Okay, on, en. Now, when do you use the pronoun on? On is used, the clue for on is when you have a D word. Okay, when the underlined part starts with a D word. That is the and any of its variants like du, de la, D apostrophe, D apostrophe, sorry, DEL apostrophe, they. Okay, any of these, the and its variants, then you will have to use the pronoun en. Okay, on. Now, there is a second occasion when you use the pronoun on is when the underlined part starts with a number. Okay, so revise the numbers well so that you know how to identify the number if the underlined part starts with 1. Okay, so either when the underlined part starts with any of the variants or a number, then you have to use en. The placement rules are the same. Now, one extra thing that you need to do for en is the underlined part begins with a number. That number has to be retained in the answer. Usually, when you're substituting an underlined part in a sentence, you don't rewrite the underlined part when you have replaced it with a pronoun, correct? But when the underlined part begins with a number, your answer also has to have the number. You don't write what comes after the number, but the number you retain in your answer. Okay, so the placement is the same as the previous two types, so let's just quickly go through it. Je mange 5 mots. Okay, manger is a single verb here to eat, so the underlined part starting with a number. 5 is the number 5. Okay, so what will you do? You have to substitute it with on. So it becomes Jean. It's actually je plus on. E clash becomes Jean. Okay, now it is placed before the verb because it's a single verb. Now remember, the underlined part starts with a number, so you retain the number in your answer. Okay, it's very important. You do not have to write mong again. You only write the number again. Okay, that's in the case of a single verb. Then, when you have one conjugated, one full, like this is the future proche here. Okay, allons retourner. Conjugated aller, retourner is full. What do? You have to place it in between. Which pronoun? You can see here it is underlined part starting with the. So it is very clearly en has to be placed between the two. Okay. Now, when both the verbs are conjugated, that is when you are in the passé composé, just like you have done the previous two types, the pronoun is placed before the auxiliary. So here, Okay, now du is a variant of the. Okay, the underlined part starts with a variant of the. Du is actually the plus the, which is a variant of the, so you have to substitute it with o, en. And where do you place that? Before the auxiliary. Okay, so let's solve some examples. J'ai parlé du film. Now, du film is the plus le, right? So, du is a variant of the. You have to substitute it with on. Now, where do you place it? A parlé is the passé composé, so it has to be placed here, okay, before the auxiliary. So it will become je n'ai parlé avec mon oncle. If there's something that comes after the underlined part like here, please rewrite it as it is in your answer. Okay. Next, Marcus a 3 ordinateurs dans son bureau. Now, the underlined part here, 3 ordinateurs, starts with a number. 3 is the number 3. So what do? You replace it with on. Where do you place it? A is the single verb here, so pronoun is placed here. Remember, when you have a number, the number is repeated in your answer. You don't have to repeat the noun. Okay, so it is Marcus on a 3 dans son bureau. Whatever is extra after the underline, bring it down as it is. Okay, next one, tu as bien pensé de ce que j'ai dit. The. Okay, underlined part starting with the, so you have to put on. Now, where do you put on? This is again passé composé a pensé. So it comes before the auxiliary, become tu en as bien pensé. Next one, il va offrir des fleurs à sa tante. Des fleurs is underlined starting with des, which is a variant of the plus les. Okay, so you have to keep it as on. Where do you place it now? This is one conjugated, one full. It has to be placed before the full verb. So you will get il va en offrir à sa tante. Okay, so it's a brief overview of how you work with the pronoun on. Try these few sentences by yourself. Okay, pause the video here, try. Answers are waiting for you on the next slide. Okay, and the last pronoun for the day, that is pronoun E. Okay, it's literally just the letter Y is the pronoun. Okay, now when do you use the pronoun Y? This is the easiest one to use. Okay, when it's either followed, when the underlined part either starts with any of the A words followed by a place. Okay, now make the distinction here. It's any of the A words followed by person, you have to use indirect object, that is Louis and le. Whenever it's a followed by place, you have to use pronoun E. Okay, now it's not necessarily that it has to be a only, it can be any other place preposition also. Okay, for example, dans, sur, chez, devant, derrière, entre. Okay, any kind of place preposition or any of the R's and its variants followed by a place is underlined, then you have to substitute it with E, that is the letter Y. Okay, the placement is the same as the previous types. So let's quickly run through. Single verb, way here is single verb for earlier, chez le docteur. Now the underlined part starts with a preposition. Chez is a place preposition followed by a place. Now when we say chez le docteur, here we're not talking about the doctor as a person, okay? Chez le docteur means to the doctor's office or to the doctor's clinic, okay? So this is effectively a place. It may look like a person to you, but don't make that mistake, okay? Because chez le docteur means at the doctor's office. So now it's a preposition followed by a place. We are substituting with Y. Where do you place it for single verb? Before. Okay, now remember you have to treat Y like a vowel. So you cannot write je, e. Okay, this is treated as a clash. So you substitute the e with an apostrophe and then bring the Y. So it will become j'y vais. Then, when you have one conjugate and one full, for example, viens is here, conjugated of venir, cacher is full. Okay, sous le lit. Sous is under, the lit is the bed, which is a place. So this is preposition plus place. Okay, so we have to use Y. E. Now where do you place it? You have to place it before the full verb. Okay, now same way, when the comes in contact with the Y, it becomes D apostrophe Y. Okay, le chat vient d'y cacher. You have to treat Y just like a vowel. Next, when both are conjugated, that is in the case of passé composé, the pronoun y will also come before the auxiliary. Just like en and direct object and indirect object, e, that is y, also comes before the auxiliary verb. Okay, so o Mexique. This is a variant of a. It's a plus l gives you o. Mexique is Mexico, which is a place, right? So you have to use y. Now, where do you place the y for passé composé? Comes before the auxiliary. That's how you get L-E a voyager. Okay. So now, let's solve some sentences. Je suis parti en France pendant les vacances. Now, en France. En is a preposition of place followed by the place, which is France. So you have to use y. Now, where do you place the y? This is passé composé. Suis parti. Suis is the auxiliary. So your pronoun y, e, has to come here before the auxiliary. Okay. So, what will it look like? Okay, it is je. So remember, you cannot write this. Okay, the e has to go and become an apostrophe. So it becomes j'y suis parti pendant les vacances. Then John aime faire les promenades au jardin. This is a variant of a plus a place. Jardin is garden. So you have to substitute with y. Where do you place the y now? There is one conjugated, there is one full. So you have to place it before the full verb. That becomes John aime faire les promenades. Okay. Next one. Chez tes grands-parents. Now, just like the previous slide, you saw chez les docteurs, right? Sorry, chez le docteur. Here you're getting chez tes grands-parents. It means at your grandparents' house. Okay, so tes grands-parents here is effectively a place. So chez, which is the preposition plus the place, has to be replaced by y. Now, this is very simple because it's just one verb. It has to come before the verb. So it becomes tu y restes. Okay, the last one. Hélène a trois jupes dans l'armoire. Dans is a preposition which means in. L'armoire is the place, which is a cupboard. So you have to put e. Now, where do you place the e? This is again simple because it is just a single verb a. Okay, so the pronoun e is placed here. Becomes Hélène y a trois jupes. Okay. So now you can try these out by yourself. Pause the video here. And the answers are there for you on the next slide. We'll end this video here. Okay, we have discussed the next three types of pronouns, that is indirect object, lui, leur, pronom on, en, and pronom e. That is the letter y. Okay, see you in the next class where we're going to discuss the last kind of pronoun that is new for you this year, les pronoms toniques or the emphatic pronouns. And then I'll give you an exercise which is mixed, okay, where you have to actually decide when to use which pronoun. Then we'll also have a video of solve with me where I'll solve an exercise. Okay, till then, take care of yourselves. Thank you very much.